National Championship Sunday blends into National Championship Monday. Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie. I am Ben. All congratulations to South Carolina. Dominant, perfect, undefeated. 38-0 for a national championship this year and a 12-point victory in that national title game in Cleveland yesterday over the Iowa Hawkeyes. The third national championship for South Carolina since 2017, second in the last 3 seasons. But as you celebrate one, there is the agony of defeat on the other side, especially in the final game of a historic, iconic, and legendary career of Caitlin Clark at Iowa. Yesterday was her final game in collegiate basketball. Her final game as a member of the Hawkeyes, a native of West Des Moines, Iowa, who stayed home in the state to lead her program to heights Iowa, frankly, had rarely ever seen, and not at this level of success each and every year. They had made one Final Four prior to Caitlin Clark's time in Iowa. They have been to 3 Final Fours now consecutively for the first time in program history. They never had reached the national championship game prior to Clark. They have now been to the national title game each of the past 2 years. Caitlin Clark, Kate Martin, Gabby Marshall, and a few others playing their final game as Iowa Hawkeyes yesterday. There has been a lot of debate. Frankly, I think a lot of it is silly as we try to tear down greatness that we see in front of our very eyes. But greatness is polarizing about Caitlin Clark's legacy and her impact on college basketball. Regardless of how you feel, I think it is very safe to say that Caitlin Clark's impact on this sport has elevated to heights we have never seen and had never seen prior to her, and what Caitlin Clark has done for women's college basketball, for just college hoops in general, for basketball at any level. She has left the game better than where she found it and will continue to do so in the WNBA.
And also, Ben, how about this? Doing it the hard way as well. Could it be easy in this day and age of transferring in NILs where, man, you know what? Lost to LSU last year. We'll try to get back at Iowa, which you could again. You know what? Hey, let me call Dawn Staley. Hey, Dawn, need a point guard next year? I know you lost a couple starters there. Or how about this? Hey, LSU, instead of getting Haley Van Lith, I'll come down there and play point guard for you guys. Oh, sure. And then you play with another bunch of 5-star athletes and McDonald's All-Americans and you win. LeBron James would have probably done that. You can't fault him because, hey, look, I just want a ring. I want to crown my career at this point. But the fact that she stayed at Iowa and was there all 4 years and was so much fun to watch because think about the run that she had just in the last 2 years alone. She knocked off the immovable object last year just to get to the title game in South Carolina. Then this year in the Elite Eight, she knocks off LSU and then takes down UConn before having to try to beat a team that was undefeated in the final. And it was so much fun to watch all the way through. And keep an eye on this. Like over the last 25 years, and Ben, you've pointed this out, it was UConn. They're like, hey, let me know when they actually lose a game, and then we'll report on it. But if not, it's such a boring game because they just dominate out here. There's so many very good college programs that you can include with Iowa. Now, we don't know where Iowa goes from here. It's hard to lose the best player maybe in the history of your sport and then try to make a run back to the in the final. We get that. But the fact that she stuck it out in Iowa, put that team on her back, and also keep in mind, it's really like the Allen Iverson effect back here for the Philadelphia 76ers. But even more importantly, she brought the entire team into the game. It's not as if she's like, well, she's going to shoot 40 times a game, not pass the ball because she doesn't think or trust her teammates. An assist leader as well. She did it all at Iowa, raised the game up, and was classy the entire way through. What a career for Caitlin Clark. And also the WNBA players, you see out there. And what I don't understand about it. It's easy, as you pointed out, to tear down, like, she's going to break my record. I don't like this or that. But the fact that she elevated the game and is moving forward, and also, I can't get back to this enough, didn't take the easy way out. All the UConn players, like, you got to win 1 or 2. She would have won 4 if she went to UConn. How about that? And also, it doesn't even make any sense the way they were talking. So shout out Caitlin Clark for doing it the right way, and rightfully so. Her place on that pantheon is one of the GOATs of all time.
Absolutely so. One of the GOATs, one of the greatest to ever do it in women's college basketball, frankly, in college hoops history. She will leave as the Division I scoring leader, either men's or women's hoops, with 3,951 points. But do not say she was just good offensively or as a scorer. Third most assists all time in women's college basketball at the D1 level. The only player to have a 40-point, 10 assist performance in an NCAA tournament game. She has 2, either man or woman. She is the only player in college hoops history at the D1 level, men's or women's college basketball, to lead the country in points and assists in a single year multiple times. We could go through the records, and it would take us the rest of these 3 hours to really detail Caitlin Clark's impact in college basketball and into the record book. But I'll just finish with this. 14.2 million viewers watched UConn and Iowa in the Final Four on a Friday night. It was the most watched basketball game, NBA, men's college basketball, in the history of ESPN. And I've got a feeling that yesterday's national championship game on ABC will even outdo those numbers to be the most watched women's college basketball game in the history of the sport. The impact that Caitlin Clark has left and her legacy on college basketball will be remembered very fondly for a very, very long time. Now, it's men's championship, national championship Monday here on the early line. But we look back before we set the stage for tonight in Phoenix on Saturday's Final Four in Phoenix, Arizona. First game up was the nightcap that we will look at, UConn and Alabama. Connecticut continues its march into a second consecutive national championship game, looking for its second straight title, to be the first repeat national champion in men's college hoops since Florida did so in 2006 and 2007. And even when they get their biggest test so far, the big dance, maybe of the past 2 NCAA tournaments, UConn almost feels inevitable. They win by double digits, by at least 13 points for the 11th consecutive game in the NCAA tournament, 86-72 over Alabama. UConn covers the number. Once again, they cover as a 10.5-point favorite against the Crimson Tide.
Tempo was crazy. It was a lot of fun to watch. Alabama couldn't miss, it felt like, in the first half. And then you saw that first half score, 44-40. UConn still had the lead. So we knew when you get your best punch from Alabama and you still have the lead, what that precursor was going to be into the second half. But also, let's remind ourselves this. The one thing I was quite impressed with, and I did take the team total under for Alabama at 74.5, that I thought that was up in smoke 5-6 minutes into the game. Crazy how good the defense here in the second half was for UConn. But having said that, then I've always talked about the ultimate equalizer is if you could shoot at volume from three-point range and make your fair share. 48% Alabama did from 23 three-point shots. I usually say to myself, boy, you could cover that game, if not win it at this point. And it just goes to show you how dominant UConn is. They can play your tempo. They can play their tempo. They can play defense. They can execute on offense. Because if you would have told me before that game, hey, Donnie, by the way, I'm not going to give you any other box score, but Alabama's going to make close to 50% of their three-point shots, I go, wow, that was the perfect storm here. UConn went down. I can't believe it here. They won by 14 points. They won and easily covered this basketball game by pulling away in the second half. That was so impressive for me to watch, where I know we're going to get the breakdown tonight of that game versus Purdue and watch it, but it just goes to show you, like, UConn doesn't have a kryptonite right now. They can beat you at whatever tempo, whatever style you want to play. And also, if you bring your A game at what you do best, like Alabama at the three-point line, will still beat you down by double digits. Unbelievable run by UConn. It's crazy, Ben.
It is truly dominant, and it is historic. 11-0 in their 11 games played in the NCAA tournament over the past 2 big dances. An average margin of victory of 22.3 points per game, and winning by 14, by the way, over Alabama in a national semifinal actually diminished that average margin of victory. They have covered in all 11 games. They have won by at least 13 points in all 11 games. And the cover margin on average is 13 points per game in a positive manner, and that's on the expected outcome. Again, pure domination. In fact, UConn was trailing Alabama for more minutes in the opening half than they had trailed in their previous 4 games in this NCAA tournament. Alabama was up 31-30 with 5 minutes remaining in those opening 20 minutes. And UConn is frankly inevitable. All 5 members of Connecticut's starting 5 on Saturday night scored in double digits, led by the freshman Stephon Castle, who only had 2 points in the Elite 8 victory over Illinois because he was shutting down Terrence Shannon Jr. He explodes for 21 points. Donovan Clingan is a game changer at the rim on the defensive end of the floor. 4 blocks, 4 against Alabama and finished with 18 points. This UConn team has been the best we have seen in men's college basketball in the last 15 years. They look for their second consecutive national championship on this Monday night.
Yeah, it's going to be great to watch it play out because we're talking about ratings here and college basketball being on good footing and an unbelievable final yesterday that they played. And they're going to have a great final tonight. Now, Ben, if you want a little bit of an analysis breakdown here is why aren't we following the lead now of the women's game? I don't mean the gameplay itself. We had a national championship game at 3 p.m. on a Sunday where the entire world was able to watch, partake, and enjoy on that. And quite frankly, from Friday night debacle, where I very rarely saw any of the game, that UConn actually got beat. So I had to actually comment in the morning, like, oh, I think that screen was off. I didn't have to do anything. I watched it easily yesterday. NCAA, you have a marquee matchup tonight. You're starting this game at 9:20 p.m. Eastern. That's a flat-out joke. That's an embarrassment. Even the college football game on Monday nights moved their time up. What are we doing, Ben? I don't know.
I would completely agree. As for Friday night, 14.2 million people still watch the most watched basketball game in the history of ESPN. But as for tonight, I would agree. 9:20, I understand you want the West Coast off working hours. But 9:20 p.m. Eastern time,